Welcome everyone, welcome to our new edition. I am Diana Popa, business coach, and I would like to thank you for being with us on this journey. I know that you are learning a lot. Today our special guest is Dan.evison. Dan has spent 20 years as a firefighter. He has spent most of those years battling his body's biological rhythm and struggled with just a few hours of sleep each night. In the last 3 years, he has made multiple positive life changes, and this all started with addressing his sleep, which has transformed almost every area of his life for the better. Dan now has a life full of joy, emotional regulation, energy, motivation, positivity, patience, perspective, and peace. Dan went on to learn all he could about sleep and shared that with anybody willing to stay awake long enough to hear it. Welcome, Dan. Thank you so much for being with me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
I am honored, and I am looking forward to hearing more about sleep, because I think I also need to learn a few tips to regulate my sleep and to make it better, to perform better. So I am honored to have you today with me. I would like to jump straight away in our interview by asking you, what is your story and how did you start on this path?
Thank you, Joanna. I started on this path, like you mentioned, about 3 years ago, a bit, maybe just over now. Well, actually, the path started many years ago when I was working as a firefighter, like you said, and working shifts, working nights. So I've spent a good 2 decades of having broken sleep and interrupted sleep through the nights. This, I didn't think was anything unnormal. It was just the way it was, and it's just my sleep was different because of the work and the job I had. This impacted on my relationships, on my behaviors, on my emotions, on my motivation to get up and do anything. It had a huge impact on lots of areas of my life without naturally knowing it. So a few years ago, when I was struggling with lots of things in my personal life, including how I was as a person, the person I was become, the person that I was as a father, and the impact that was having on not only my children and my wife, but also the wider my family unit and my career and my other aspirations. I saw my brother going through something similar, who with depression and altered and disordered sleep. My mother was a night shift worker. I had lots of colleagues in the emergency services who were struggling also with their sleep and again with their cognitive behaviour and some of their relationships and other such things. So when I started to, I made a change. I made a decision that I would change my sleep because I wanted to change my life. And I said, what can I change straight away right now that can make a difference? And I just plucked out, okay, I'm gonna have a look at sleep. So I changed my sleep, and that made a huge difference, and it propelled me into a life I never thought possible for myself and for those close to me. And so once I went down that road and I then started sharing it with my family, friends and colleagues, the difference was so obvious that I said I had to share this with other people. I have to learn more about this and understand it, and this is what brings me here with you today.
This is very inspiring, and I am always curious and surprised when I hear these kind of stories, something that is not normal or maybe not obvious straight away, because we know that we need to eat very healthy, we know that we need to exercise, but I never heard, to be honest, about the sleep performance, or that we have to pay very close attention to the sleep. What would be your advice in terms of improving our sleep? What is actually something that we need to improve in order to perform better in our careers or in our business? Is there something very specific?
Yes, there is. There are lots of ways of improving your sleep. In relation to careers and our businesses, what happens with sleep to your body, it improves every area. There's scientific understanding and knowledge of the last 5 years, mainly the last 5 years is where the real science and understanding of why we sleep and how we sleep and how it affects us has come out. So by improving your sleep with careers and businesses, your productivity increases, your creativity increases, you have a better memory, you make better decisions, you're emotionally regulated your emotions, your emotional intelligence improves, and therefore your relationships and of how you do things improves. Excuse me. Your focus also improves, and how you concentrate and how long you can concentrate for. So regards to careers and businesses, imagine an employee who is terribly underslept, and they don't work as well, they're not as productive, not creative, not focused, not concentrated, have poor emotional regulation, their immune system is poor, so they have more days off sick, their memory isn't great. So imagine that particular employee in your business, or if that was yourself, and how that's going to affect your career and your mission, as opposed to somebody who's well slept and then therefore has the opposite effect of productivity, increases creativity, focus, and all of the great laundry list of things that great sleep can affect on somebody. And once they build into that habit, that only can move them up the scale. So if that's you, or if that's your people in your business, imagine if everyone was well slept and the difference that could make. There are some companies, without talking about Google and NASA and Samsung and Apple, have a huge relationship with sleep and how it can affect their colleagues. Certainly those type of companies encourage, and in some cases reward, staff who have good sleep patterns and good sleep practices.
I love that. Thank you so much, Dan. I am wondering, actually, is it both ways? Because you mentioned that if we don't have enough sleep, is it also possible that maybe we sleep too much? Could this also help us to improve our performance? Is there, I don't know, a number of hours that we should aim for every single night?
Yeah, generally speaking, and for decades and decades, like yourself and many of the listeners, and even myself and my colleagues, we all knew for decades that you should just get 8 hours of sleep. 8 hours of sleep is key. That is the best thing that you can do regards to sleep. So generally speaking, yes, 7 to 9 hours is the right amount of quantity for most people. There are a very few people in society, and we're talking a very slight percentage of people, that need more than that or can function with less than that. But generally speaking, we can accurately measure impairments cognitively and physically within people that sleep less than 7 hours. So we understand that 7 to 9 hours is the right amount of sleep that one would require to improve. You can have too much sleep, because once you sleep too much, then you're not really benefiting yourself anymore. You're getting into bad habits there. You might need more sleep if you've been, jet lag, or you're traveling across time zones, or you've had terrible sleep for a few days. You might then require sleep is a sleep debt which we have to pay. But generally speaking, a good consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep is key, and that's for quantity of sleep. But now really the onus is on the quality of your sleep. Imagine getting 9 hours of sleep, which you went to the toilet 3 times, the dog woke you up, the kids woke you up, the car alarm went off, your partner snores. You might have 9 hours in bed and asleep, but your quality is very low. So really, quality is key here. If you can get 6 hours of high quality sleep, that will be better for you. You will perform better the next day than you would if you got 9 hours of poor quality sleep.
Thank you so much, Dan. Is there anything we can create in our environment in order to improve the performance of our sleep? Like you mentioned noise, for example. I know that I am very sensitive to noise and I wake up very easily. But is there something else? I am thinking maybe, temperature, or pillow or something else that can help us actually.
Yes. The good thing is there are so many things that can help us, and so many practices that we can do. Even if you just change one. I've started to change one thing with my sleep, and it was a huge impact. And then since then, I've layered on to that 10, 15 things, if you like. So yes, any one thing you can do will certainly have a positive impact on your sleep performance. For instance, the body prefers it to be dark, of course, like our ancestors. They went to sleep when the sun went down. It was nice and dark and they slept brilliantly. They didn't have all these street lights and floodlights and LED lights and phone lights and screens and TV. So having it dark is really key. Your body knows there's a chemical that your brain releases. It's known as the vampire hormone. It's called melatonin. That is released into your body when it's dark. The brain says, oh, the sun's gone down, it's dark. Here's this chemical to start you off on your sleep process. And it's that darkness which is really key. And in modern society, we have so many lights, we have so much light in our homes with screens that we keep it light for so much longer. So keeping it dark for as long as you can is certainly a tip. I mean, without telling you to walk around in complete darkness, bumping into things, yeah, dimming lights before sleep is really key. Having it nice and cool is also really ideal. The body is better off when the core temperature is cool. So anything you can do to cool your temperature down. The main things are having a cooler environment you sleep in, whether it's windows open or a fan, will certainly help. And a hot bath or a hot shower before bed, that releases all of the heat out of the body from the surface of the body, which then cools your core. So although it sounds a bit counterintuitive, a hot bath or hot shower will actually cool you down within your core, because all of that heat from your core then releases out of your skin, and that cools you down. So that's darkness and that's cool. There's no one better than the other, if you like. There's so many. I'd say certainly the number one, if you was to Google it, the number one thing to improve your sleep would be consistency. Having a consistent sleep and wake time is really key. So many of us have alarms to wake us up in the mornings, but we don't have alarms to go to bed. Going to bed at a consistent time each night and getting up in the mornings will ensure that our body's natural biological rhythm is in sync. So if our body is naturally doing this as a rhythm of our sleep and how it, when it wants sleep and how it sleeps, and if we're doing the complete opposite at the same time, which is what most people do, their practices and the way they live their lives is not in sync with our natural rhythms, is that when you have sleep disorders, you feel underslept and you don't feel great. So if you can align your own practices with your sleep, then that's when you wake up and you feel really great, because your body says, this is now dark, we go to bed, and this is now sun's up, we get up. And if you do it differently to that, you can see the negative impact that could have on you. So that's not a short answer, but there are so many things you can do, and if you don't, you've got to stop me talking, because I would talk about them all.
No, I love this, because I am also learning, actually. I know that I need to improve also my sleep. And something that I noticed actually about myself and my own experience is that whenever I am under a lot of stress, I sleep more. Do you think there is any connection between our emotional well-being and the sleep, whether it's more or less?
Yes, certainly. The studies are well versed now. 17,000 studies and more to date have been done with on people with regards to their sleep, and we can accurately measure, like I said to you earlier, impairments cognitively and physically in people that are less slept. So things like stress in your life would have an impact on your sleep, definitely with regards to anything with regards to stress and mental health or anxiety, things that are going to have negative impact upon you, even if it's in daylight hours, are also going to impact on your sleep, because what people normally do, but what people can do if they have stress for a long period of time or anxiety for a long period of time, that can affect their sleep. They wake up halfway through their sleep with an active mind, worrying about things for the next day. So certainly the more stress you have in your life, the more likely your sleep is to be interrupted. Your sleep quality is not going to be as high, because you are worried or anxious about something, or you're going to be thinking about something. Also, stress, of course, keeps us in a fight and flight mode. People have heard of that before. We have an opposite of that. There's the fight and flight mode, which our body is in natural rhythm every single day, because our ancestors need to go and hunt and thrive and survive. And that's the same as us now. We're doing school runs with all of this cortisol, the stress hormone, running through our systems just to go and park the car. So we don't need it, but we have it still. So stress is a great thing, and it gets a bad rap. But if you live in fight and flight all of the time, you imagine running at 100 miles an hour, all these stress hormones are being released, and then you lay down for sleep. It's just not going to be beneficial. You're not going to sleep as well. So with regards to stress being something which is in fight or flight, you want to flip your body's system into what is known as the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. So a wind down, if you like, or things you do to relax your body before sleep will certainly flip you in from that stresses and from that fight and flight into rest and digest and sleep mode.
I'm smiling because that's so much like me, and sometimes I'm wondering why I cannot fall asleep, but definitely this explains it all. Thank you for putting it in such a simple manner for people to understand it, and for helping us to improve our life. In relation to this aspect, I would like to ask you, do you think that if we improve our sleep, we can really transform our life? Is there something else that we need to do, or maybe this could be a first step which can have a significant impact?
Oh yeah, great question. Yes, on a couple of points to it there. One is that by definition of my own sleep, of course, it can have an impact on my life. Some people call it a keystone habit, that, you know, like an archway, that big fat block right in the middle at the top, that's that keystone. You take that out, the arch falls down, and a keystone habit would be something like sleep, whereas if you have great sleep or you improve your sleep, it impacts on all the other areas around it. So sleep is certainly going to benefit life. It will make a difference. Like I said to you earlier on, if you imagine someone that's motivated and feels creative and productive and well slept, they're going to perform better at life than if someone isn't. The second part of that would be that when you're what was this?
Don't worry if it's a technical term, because either way I don't know all the medical terms.
Sometimes I just get lost in my train. So I had two things to say there and only one of them came out. But essentially, if you were going to perform, so that's what I was going to say, was about health and diet. So sorry, about exercise and diet. So normally, this is a term generally speaking, in history we understand as health being sort of three pillars of health: sleep, diet, exercise. So they're the three pillars of health. As long as we have good sleep, you eat well, we exercise regularly, move regularly, then you're going to have a reasonable chance of staying alive for a long time. Your health is going to be improved. The more recent understanding and science is that sleep is more foundational, where diet and exercise sit upon sleep. So sleep is this foundation of health. If you imagine for a second that you had a terrible night's sleep, just a few hours tossing and turning, concerning and worrying. You wake up. What sort of foods did you eat the day after? Were they healthy green foods at the right amount, where you stopped after just a small portion, or did you eat the foods of one colour, high starch and carbohydrates, sugars? So it's understood that really that's our body going into survival mode. It knows it hasn't slept very long. It knows it needs to survive. So the only function of the brain is to keep us alive and to survive. So then it will go looking for certain foods. So if you have a terrible night's sleep, you normally have bad food choices. If you have a terrible night's sleep, you normally don't exercise, or you exercise less, or you feel less motivated to move and exercise. So it's understood that with a poor night's sleep, you then have, and also there are hormones released with regards to food. You not only will you make poor nutrition choices, you also won't exercise as well either. So by having poor sleep, it's going to affect both those two things. It's bi-directional as well, because the more you exercise in the day, the better your sleep is at night. And the better you eat and when you eat will determine how well you sleep as well. If you have a massive, huge meal right before bedtime, it's going to affect your sleep. If you exercise vigorously right before bedtime, it's going to affect your sleep. So they are bi-directional, but certainly foundational sleep is where the other two sit upon, and they're affected if you don't sleep very well. So that's two ways where your lives can change regarding sleep and health. I suppose. Sorry, just one last thing would be to add to that. Some people like this analogy is, imagine if you was to go for a run, and talking about sleep performance, what you do before sleep and what we do after sleep is so important. So if you liken it to going for a run, what you do before you go for a run and what you do after you go for a run is going to increase the chances of you performing really well. If you was to go for a run, you normally would put on great trainers, some shorts, you put on earphones, you check the route, you know how long you're going to run for, you wouldn't have a large meal, you probably drink some water, you might even stretch. So you do all those things because you want to ensure you get the best performance from your run. And sleep is the same. What you do before you go to sleep is going to ensure the quality of your sleep. So if we are looking at screens, we're eating heavy meals, we're going to bed at different times, we're staying in the fight and flight mode, it's going to affect the performance of your sleep. And what we do after you go for a run, like drinking, showering, stretching, fueling your body, all those things you do following the run is the same as what you do following sleep. What you do first thing in the morning will also have an effect on your sleep. Hence why I call it a performance. It is a performance which is affected by things before and after.
That's fascinating, to be honest. I had no idea that there are so many things I should be doing to improve my sleep, and definitely I'm going to apply all of this. You mentioned that we need to take a hot shower before sleeping, and also to go to bed when it is dark. Is there something else that we need to do? And also in the morning, you mentioned that we should do something. What are these things that we can apply?
Yeah, definitely before bed. I've already mentioned about consistency and how key it is to go to bed at the same time each night. I'd certainly say anything around light is so important. So having it as dark as you possibly can before bed and having it as light as you possibly can when you wake up, they're really fundamental when it comes to sleep. So before bed, I mentioned dimming lights, but also the screens on your phones, you can have filters on phones which take out the blue light spectrum within that, or on your TVs. So the first one would be dimming the lights of an evening time. You can't always dim lights with overhead lights or TVs and other such lights in your house. So there's something called blue light blocking glasses, which you can wear. They're like glasses, and they range from looking like these all the way up to a pair of red glasses. I should have grabbed some because I could show you. I have 3 or 4 pairs. Wearing blue light blocking glasses of an evening will help to, because what light does is it inhibits the releases of the chemicals and the hormones in your body, because the brain doesn't know the difference between sunlight and just lights from the TV or lights from overhead. So the body doesn't release chemicals because it thinks the sun's still up. So if you block out the blue lights that come from screens and TVs and lights, then your body can then release those chemicals. So light inhibits the releases of those. So it's really important that you have it as dark as you can, including whether you wear glasses or not. You don't have to, because it looks a bit silly. My wife's like, you look silly in those ridiculous orange and red glasses that I wear. But it's really important that you get it as dark as you can, not only in your bedroom, but also the hour or 2 hours before bed, dimming lights, reducing those screens, or at least wearing glasses to filter out the light. So light is really key before. And also you mentioned the next day in the morning, the number one is get sunlight. Get out in natural sunlight for about 15 minutes every morning, because what that does is it resets your biological rhythm. It's known as your circadian rhythm, and it's flowing like that. And every single morning you hit sunlight in your eyes and on your skin, it resets. So going to bed and waking up at the same times, as well as getting that sunlight, it's just always in rhythm. And if you're working in an office, or you're working at home, or you don't go outside for a day, then you're not going to get that natural sunlight that you would get. You might get 5,000 lumens from the sun in 15 minutes, but from a lamp in your office you might only get 20. So the more sunlight, natural sunlight you get in the morning is going to help to recalibrate your natural rhythms, your natural biological rhythms. So light is really cool. Dark at night, and lots of sunlight in the morning, just like our ancestors used to do.
I love this. This really changes my perspective about all my habits, everything that I am doing, and everything that I should be doing, and that I am going to start as of tomorrow. Thank you once again, Dan, for being with me today. I would like to close our interview today by asking you, who are you serving and how can people contact you?
Thank you, Donna. Great. I really enjoyed it. I'm serving anyone that is looking to improve their sleep. That's any from emergency services, people that I work with, to individuals one-to-one. I've just finished a one-to-one sleep coaching this morning before speaking to you. So it's anyone that's struggling with their sleep or would like to improve their sleep in some way, which is everyone, because we spend a third of our life doing it and not everyone can do it great. So anyone and everyone, from emergency services to family members to mums, in groups and one-to-one. And that's who I'm serving.
And how can people contact you?
Thank you. My email address to people to contact me is my work email address, which is dan.evison @essex-fire.gov.uk.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you once again for being with me. And I am honored to have you here. I know that everyone is learning a lot, including myself. Thank you once again for accepting my invitation and being here with me.
Oh, it's my privilege, my pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this message, important message with everyone. Thank you.
Absolutely, it's essential, and everyone is going to start implementing it, I am sure, because you are inspiring us to transform our life, and this is what it is about, to actually improve every single piece that can actually lead to having a better life the way we want to. Thank you once again, and for those of you listening to us, stay connected because there is so much more to come.